Welcome to Scottsdale 151. I'm your host, Kim Goetz. Tonight's show is about the art of shoeing horses, and our guest is Jeremiah Harris, a certified journeyman farrier. Jeremiah, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Certified Journeyman Farrier. There's a lot of folks out there that probably have no idea what it is that you do. Give us a little bit of insight.
So first of all, Certified Journeyman Farrier is the highest level of certification. It's a voluntary program, but it's the highest level. And farriers in general are charged with the care of the horse's hoof. So mostly that involves removing old shoes, trimming the foot, applying new shoes, taking care of the general care for the horse's hoof itself.
How important is hoof care in the overall health of a horse? There's an old saying, no hoof, no horse. Does that ring true?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, our national association, the American Farriers Association, that's its trademark is no foot, no horse. And as you said, a lot of people know that. So without the ability of a strong hoof, the horse can't move. So it's extremely important, something that most horse people never overlook.
How did you get on this path to becoming a farrier? Is this something that you had a passion for? Are horses in your background? Give us a little bit of info.
Yeah, I started when I was about 13 years old, just working with our farrier on weekends and after school, and really enjoyed it. And my passion really grew from there, and I really felt a connection to horses, and they're one of my favorite animals. So it seemed like a good career choice, and just kind of took off from there.
So obviously you have to know a little something about horses to get into this industry, or it helps anyways.
It certainly does help, yeah.
Talk about the schooling. What is recommended or required to become a farrier?
Well, unfortunately, here in the United States, there's actually no requirement. Everything is voluntary, so all the certifications are voluntary. But there are schools out there, more like trade schools, that you can participate in. And then everything after that is really voluntary and up to you if you want to go learn from a high-level skilled farrier and try to apprenticeship.
Now, we mentioned the Certified Journeyman Farrier. That's one of the titles that you hold. But you have two others that you associate with your work. Explain those to us.
So the TE, which is the therapeutic endorsement, is also from the American Farriers Association. And that's really to recognize somebody's ability to work with lame horses. So over 80% of lameness or problems in the horse are actually in the hoof. So that's somebody that has showed a high level of skill to work and fix those horses. So, and the AWCF is the Associate of the Worshipful Company of Farriers, and that one's actually from England. And so that's one that shows even a higher skill of working with veterinarians and trainers and the ability to help horses, keep horses sound, and fix them.
And as I understand, you are one of the few in the nation to hold all three of these titles. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's only 5 others in the United States to have all 3.
Excellent. Well, I understand our cameras caught up with you earlier to get you in your element and at work. So let's take a look at that video.
The graceful canter of horse and rider takes hours of practice, and it's the job of a farrier to craft the shoes that protect the horse's hoof from wear. Jeremiah Harris, a professional farrier, takes us step by step through the process.
So that's the very first stage of removing the old shoes and cleaning them and judging the size of the foot. There are several different types of metal. The one that I specifically use is 3/8 by 1 inch, and it's a mild steel. So my forge, many people refer to it as an oven, gets approximately 3,000 degrees, and it takes about 1 to 2 minutes to get a piece of average steel hot. The most important thing on any shoe is what's called the toe bend, and that's because it mimics the shape of the coffin bone.
The thick leather apron not only holds tools, but also protects against a knife slip or a nail poking through.
The most important part about farrier is hot shoeing, and while the shoe is hot, you check to see your fit, and that's appropriately what's called hot seating, and that's where the smoke comes off from the foot. And it doesn't hurt the horse at all. Once you have the shoe formed and fit to the specific foot, then you just cool it in a bucket of water. Grind the shoe, and that takes any sharp edges off the shoe so it doesn't harm the horse, and then you brush it, cool it, and you're ready to nail. The nailing process involves putting a nail into the hoof, up through the hoof, and then bending it over.
As a farrier, Harris sees his skill as a blend of both art and science.
You have to know the anatomy and the biomechanics of the horse, and that would be the science, and then there's the artistic side, which is more of the forging and the shaping of the shoe. So I would certainly consider it both.
Rosie the horse appears to be almost showing off her new shoes.
That's cute. And Rosie does look happy to have a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, she's a sweet mare.
Now tell me, for someone who's watching that for the first time, seeing a horse being shod, what what can you tell them about the no pain comments that you made? It looks like it would be painful. Can you explain how it isn't?
Yeah, that's a question I get quite frequently. The hoof is epidermal tissue, so it has no nerve endings, and it's very similar to our hair. It's made of keratin or our fingernails, just on a much larger scale. So you can get your hair trimmed or your fingernails trimmed and it doesn't hurt. So the same thing with the horse. As long as you don't trim too much off or put the shoe on for too long at a high level of heat, then they don't feel any pain. The same thing with nailing the nails in. It's quite a bit thicker, similar to nailing into a piece of wood. So you can hurt them, but all the more important reason to have a highly skilled farrier working on your horse.
Obviously. Yeah, okay. So also, the horses that come into you are not all leaving with shoes on their feet. Tell me, what determines whether a horse gets shoes or leaves barefoot, as they say?
Well, it's really up to the farrier and trainer to decide, and oftentimes the veterinarian, if what's going to be the best course of action for the horse. Shoes are simply designed to protect the horse's hoof from wear. So if you have a horse that you're not riding that much or it's in rehab, it might not need shoes. And it's only the horses that are high performance horses that are being ridden quite frequently or in rocky areas that need that protection to keep the horse's hoof from wearing off.
Which leads to my next question. You've had the opportunity to work at some pretty prominent equine events. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I had the privilege and honor to work at the Alltech 2010 World Equestrian Games through the American Farriers Association. So we were charged with the task of taking care of every horse on the property, and there was thousands of them on the entire Kentucky Horse Park there. So it was a real privilege to be able to do that, and the responsibility to care for those horses, that if something did happen, that we were right on the spot in order to take care of it. Because if they lost a shoe, then the show would come to an end. So it was quite exciting to be a part of that process, and a privilege.
What are some of the advances that you're seeing in the industry right now, and does it require that you just continue that schooling for the industry?
Yeah, even though the modern practice of farrier really hasn't changed over hundreds of years, there are new additions of technologies, as you mentioned. Probably the two biggest ones are that of like acrylic and urethane, which are for glue-on application. So those have directly impacted the farrier business as far as gluing on shoes, but also to the advent of more availability of MRI machines and radiograph, which obviously applies to the veterinarian, but that really helps farriers in charging for the care of the horse.
What are some of the biggest issues that you do see come in your door with these horses that you know on a daily basis?
Probably one of the most predominant ones are some of the internal injuries called founder and navicular. And those can either be acute issues, which happen immediately, or chronic, just wear and tear as a natural athlete would have. So that's, again, where having a high level knowledge of anatomy and skill, you're able to take care of that and keep that horse performing well.
So would it be true that any small amount of neglect on the part of the horse owner, not getting their horse in for the trimming or the shoeing, can lead to really some serious problems?
Yeah, it certainly can. It's no different than a regular athlete. They take an enormous amount of care to keep them at a high performance. So the same thing with the horse. Even a horse that's not being at a high performance level still needs regular maintenance of trimming, whether they're barefoot or shod.
Now, what are some of the things that you're looking at when a horse comes in? Are you looking at conformation? Are you looking at the age, the discipline, or all of those things?
Yeah, all of those things. That's, again, one of the things of the certifications is you have to have an extensive knowledge of the horse's conformation, the discipline, the training style, the footing, the environment, the nutrition. So it's a real big picture, and I think the farrier can act as a liaison sometimes between the horse and the owner, because our knowledge of the horse can be much greater than that of most owners, so we can alert them to any problems and try to avert any problems that may come up with the horse.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
It's everything. I love it. I love horses. I love being able to work with my hands. I love the science aspect of studying the anatomy. I get up every day with a big smile, so I really do love it.
Good. So do your clients come to you, or do you go to them, or whatever works best? Yeah,
it's mostly whatever works best. I have both. I will go to the client oftentimes if the horse is too lame and too sore to move. Big facilities like where Rosie's at, it doesn't make sense for them to come to me, so I'll go to them. But I also have a great number of clients that actually come to a facility and I'll work on their horse.
Well, we are glad that you came to see us today. Thanks so much for joining us, Jeremiah. If you would like to contact Jeremiah, his website is hoofandforge.com. Thank you for joining us today on Scottsdale 151. I'm Kim Goetz.